All right, got Chris Clanton in the building, man. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
man.
Actor, Arthur, all of that, man. And the Wire fans out there, him from as Savino from the Wire. We own the city. You
Yep,
just put out your book, The
yep,
Loss of Finessing Me, man. He
yep,
done it
man.
all, man. So I appreciate you pulling up, man, for real.
Appreciate you having me, man.
Absolutely. So I just want to kind of get into it, man. Talk about the beginning, you from Baltimore.
hmm
What was it like, growing up in Baltimore, and what era did you grow up in?
Shit, I grew up in the early '90s in Baltimore, man. So I grew up around a time where a lot of the characters that were big, like on the Wire, during the time when they were actually running the streets. You know what I'm saying? So I grew up in West Baltimore, Park Heights. If anybody knows what that is or where that is, it's not a pretty area. You know what I'm saying? But I made it through that motherfucker. You know.
Well, so did you kind of always had a aspiration to be an actor, or where did that
Nah,
come from?
nah, nah. My grandma, man, my grandma, she saw that shit in me, bro. Like, cause I just used to make up stuff around the house just to entertain myself. My parents was out there in the streets. You know what I'm saying? I had siblings, but we all, did our own thing. So it wasn't until I was probably maybe 12, 13 when I was an extra on the corner before I actually realized, like, oh, all right, it's something that I might want to do. Yep.
How did you get that, or how did you get involved with the corner?
Um, so I was in like this theater troupe that one of the associates from one of the casting agencies in Baltimore was a part of, and he just came in one day and was like, took pictures of us and took it to Pat Moran, which is the casting agent, and she called us to be extras in the corner. And then maybe a couple of years later, The Wire came around. I think I was like maybe a freshman in high school. The Wire came around, and I was an extra in the very first episode. And then I saw my eighth grade history teacher on set, which is Ed Burns. And come to find out, he's one of the co-creators and executive producers. So when he saw me, he asked me a few questions if I liked it, you know what I'm saying, and if HBO was going to pick it up, because that was the pilot. If HBO was going to pick it up, then he'll call me back. And like a month later, 2 months later, they called me to take my screen test to be Savino.
So kind of going back, when you first started, doing acting, how did your family and how did they feel about you seeing you early on, doing that?
And that shit was, uh, it wasn't anything that anybody I guess could understand. You know what I'm saying? So it was just like, oh, little Chris on TV. Like it wasn't something where my parents didn't understand, like to go get me an agent and to keep me going in it. It was just like, oh no, damn, look, we always knew he was gonna be different, but he on TV. But then that was that. You know what I'm saying? And that kind of sparked other things. But
So you said the corner was your first acting experience.
like first acting experience, like in front of cameras, because I had did like stage plays and shit, and I always did like oratory contests. But like in front of the cameras, yeah, that was my very first thing.
Okay. And so did you ever get to meet any of the like DeAndre McCullough, who the kind of
Yeah,
was based off of? Did you get to meet them?
yeah. Actually, one of the characters, Tay, um, is Dante Herbert. He was my cousin.
Yeah.
So like the book is based. He's a part. One of my family members is actually a part of that story. So I did get a chance to meet DeAndre and Fran and the real ones anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that like? Especially seeing they stories get portrayed on TV.
Oh man, that shit was. It was. I don't. I want to say because I was so young, it was. It was big to me, but like what was happening in the streets was kind of bigger, so that kind of overshadowed. Yeah, I seen Miss Fran and I seen Candy Alexander playing Miss Fran and all of that, but I never understood the magnitude of what I was really a part of until later on.
Was it hard coming up in Baltimore, especially around that time?
Hell yeah, it was hard, man. Like when you got parents, two parents that are you know, crackheads. You feel what I'm saying? And then I got 3 other brothers and sisters. You know what I'm saying? We out here. You know, it was pretty tough. Like my parents got themselves together. You know, love them to death. Still together to this day. But back then, that shit was hard, bro. Yeah.
Was it kind of like a when you was acting? Was that kind of like a way you felt like you could see you kind of like make a better situation for you and your family?
Absolutely, absolutely. I always say, if I would have known, because I don't want to put it on my parents. My parents had no idea. If I would have known the next steps to take when I got that opportunity, I would have took them and probably wouldn't have ended up in the little situations that I did end up in.
So what was like your? Did you have like an original idea of what did you want to do growing up before like acting came around?
Man, it was to make it out of Park Heights, bro. Like I wasn't athletic, you know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't like I was going to make it out playing football or basketball or some shit like that. So it had to been either my mouth, you know, the way I talk or my brain. Like it had to been something. So my only thing was to make it out of there, man.
How is Park Heights like now compared to when you was coming up?
Oh man, they've gentrified it a lot, bro. It's not the way. It's not how it used to be. A lot of the homes are gone. It doesn't even look the same up there anymore, to be honest with you. Um, you can tell that whatever redevelopment program that the city's got going on is starting there.
So like with like the corner and the wire, did you feel like with you being from that area, did you feel like it did a good job of like kind of representing Baltimore, West
Oh yeah,
Baltimore,
yeah,
particularly?
absolutely. The corner was a mini series, so they had from that book, they had the meat and potatoes of what to show us, and it was all authentic. With The Wire was a ongoing series. You know what I'm saying? So it was a lot of things, authenticity that was thrown in there that probably shouldn't even have been in there. You know what I'm saying? So I think with The Wire, bro, it revolutionized television. To be honest with you.
So you kind of talked about it earlier, but like just like how exactly did you get the role for like Savino?
So, like I said, I was an extra in the very first episode, the pilot episode. Um, and I don't think I was gonna be in the scene that they actually had me in before I saw Ed Burns. I saw Ed Burns. You know, he asked me, you know, did I like doing this? You know, and he told me, he said if HBO picks the show up, then he'll make sure that Pat Moran calls me back. They brought me in, changed my clothes a little bit, and threw me into the courtroom scene. When I watched the show, it wasn't until then when I realized I had a name. You know, but up until then, I didn't know what was going to happen until Pat Moran called me back for the screen test.
So did you have to like audition because you was an extra?
No,
So you okay?
and I believe that's kind of what didn't I didn't take advantage of, or I did take advantage of not having to audition. I didn't know that thousands of people audition for these parts and only one get picked. My eighth grade history teacher slid me in there and I got the part. So it wasn't nothing that I had to fight for. So I didn't know that being in this business is a privilege. It's not just given to you.
What was like the filming like for The Wire? Like just being on set
It was
with the different.
authentic, baby. I'm like working with like people like Idris and Larry Gilliard and Hassan Johnson and man, God rest his soul, Michael K. Williams. You know what I'm saying? Like that shit. It was for me being a 16-year-old kid and showing up and you got Wood Harris in a trailer right next to me. Like I'm caught in between Wood Harris and or Idris or you know what I'm saying, and not knowing who these people. I knew who Wood was, of course, paid in full. That's you know what I'm saying. That's Ace Boogie, but Idris was just starting, so it was like he was coming into himself, and then I had people around me like Fredro Starr and even Method Man was around the first season, so it was just like Man, it was greatness. I was surrounded by greatness, bro. Like it's something that I take into this day. Like I appreciate it.
So when you was on set and you was playing Savino, like, did you have to like, was you portraying him? Did you kind of like tap into like what you had kind of like seen in your environment growing up?
Absolutely, absolutely. Like it wasn't far off, and you know the producers and the writers didn't know, but it wasn't far off from what I was already doing in life anyway. You know, I still was going to school, but I had, and it came to light after the show. Like I ended up going to prison for real for 3 years. So I made it back home just in time for the last season, and Ed Burns brought me back so I can, I guess, close out that Barksdale arc. That close that out because I think I might have been the last character from the very first season with all of that. You know. So he brought me back as a favor for to doing me a favor for real because he didn't even have to bring me back.
So how did how were you like viewed? You know, because you still in high school. So like, how was it? You know, you being on the show and you still being in high school. Like, was you still going to school? Like, while that was.
So, so quiet as kept. My baby will be 24 this year. I had a child on the way that year. I was 16 years old, 2002. I'm filming The Wire that summer. My daughter was due that September. So once the show came out, the show premiered like September of 2002. So it's my like 11th grade year of high school. Yeah, I was going, but Sundays I might show up that Monday just to get the love. Like, damn, I seen you on, but I was a dad, bro. I was like, man, life was life at the time, bro. I don't regret anything. Like my baby, like I said, she's 24 now. So, it is what it is.
Was it hard, like being a father at a young age while
Hell yeah.
trying to act and everything?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So acting had became like in my rear view once I became a dad because it was like, oh shit, I gotta take care of this little girl. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't make all the right decisions, of course, but um, I some of the decisions that I did make in hindsight to take care of my children landed me in prison. You know? And this was like after The Wire. I had already did The Wire, and I was out in the streets. So.